Hello, and welcome to the first ever Sip and Swish podcast. My name is Jason Stoltz. I'm here with Nick Reed and Lucas McLean. We've got a few beverages in front of us, and we're ready to talk some basketball. So let's jump into the first quarter, where we review the best and worst from the last week in the association. Let's kick it off with one of the best, that phenomenal triple overtime game between Philly and OKC. What did you guys think?
Thought it was perfect. Kind of the greatest game in a long time. Triple overtime, it's always my favorite, but I just think the biggest thing is the Thunder won, but their big three still played terribly. Like, Westbrook had an amazing triple-double, but he shot 33% from the field, 5 for 12 from the free throw line. That just is not good overall. None of that's good. Paul George shot 8 for 23. It's like they just barely won, and they just won because they're superstars, not because they actually played well.
Not to mention they were beating up on a super young team that had players playing the most minutes of their entire career. I mean, Embiid looked gassed from the first overtime.
50 minutes. That's like 2 games worth.
That was like last year they were pulling him from games if he was getting close to like 28 minutes now. Yeah, I mean, you look at the plus minus of Westbrook. I mean, he got a triple double, but he had a -4 plus minus. His first 4 quarters, he had 12 points. Like, he wasn't doing anything. He was just taking shots, and even in the overtime, like, he took over. But there was times that he was dribbling in with a ball, and he would take a shot, get his own rebound, dribble out, and Carmelo's standing in the corner like, "Hey, pass me the ball right here," and then he sticks his hands up like, "Why aren't you passing me the ball right now?" And Carmelo was hot that game too. I mean, he only missed 6 shots.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest takeaway listening to ESPN after the game was Melo should have taken 30 shots that game, and Westbrook was the one to take 30 plus. Like, Melo, when he's hot and needs to be fed the ball, and Westbrook, that's not an option for him anymore. For whatever reason, it's just Westbrook. He's the only offense.
Right, we're going to talk about the big three of the Thunder later. But, yeah, I mean, when any one of them is hot, just feed them the ball. Feed them the ball, absolutely. Did you guys think it was dangerous for Embiid to play that much? How did you guys feel about those extended minutes?
I think there needs to get to a point that he needs to start. He needs to do these minutes. Like, they needed this win. They're on like a bit of a losing streak now, but
3-7 in their last 10.
Yeah, so they really needed it. They could have had the game. He had the blocker at the end, and I think he needs to do it. He just needs to play. It's a test.
I think it's just like ripping off the Band-Aid. It's been like 3 years of them just babying him so hard, and I know this isn't like his inaugural game into the NBA, but it's the most minutes he's ever played, and he's got to be completely gassed, and he's got to I bet at the end of the game he was like, okay, I get why the training staff didn't believe that I could play this many minutes. Like, I get it now. Like, my body isn't that ready yet.
Right.
At the end of the game, he wasn't posting up like Embiid normally does. I think the game-winning shot was actually Andre Robertson. Out of all people, won the game. And Embiid didn't block the shot. And I was really confused because Robertson was right under the rim and Embiid's just, hovering.
Well, Robertson pump faked the crap out of Embiid. Like, he was like, "Oh," and Embiid bit it, and then Robertson went under. But Robertson had that shot twice in the game. He had it in the second overtime where he missed the layup, and then he had the one that won.
That would have won, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was good playing. They did play double man coverage on Melo a lot. Like, once he got hot, you would see it. But there was times that Westbrook could have dove, just whipped the ball right back to him.
Yeah.
But that's not, once he gets the triple-double, is he still looking for passes?
So one thing I was thinking, who do you guys see as each of these teams' third best player? We didn't talk about this ahead of time at our pre-pod meeting, the PPM, but I thought that it was relevant based on this game. And the more I was thinking about it, it's a tough call, especially with the Thunder. Because I feel like Steven Adams has to be in your top 3. But then who are you leaving out? Melo, I guess? I don't know. Do you guys have immediate thoughts on just not who the best player for that game was, obviously, but just overall, who the third best player on each of those teams happens to be.
I would say for the Thunder, I mean, you got to go Westbrook. I still put Paul George up there for his defense. His defense is doing it standing this year. I mean, he got 3 steals in that game in the triple overtime, which was, I believe, tied for the most in the game. I might, I've been hard on Steven Adams, but I think he's more impactful than Carmelo is. Carmelo has his games where he's outstanding, but I think I agree with Steven Adams being there, which I've been a doubter.
I have not been a Steven Adams fan at all. But I think Steven Adams is the unsung hero of the team, but I don't think Paul George
I knew you were going to say that.
there. I think if you just had Melo, Westbrook, Adams, and you could use all that Paul George money, or even keep Oladipo and Sabonis, or do something with Paul George's space, he's just a chucker. He's like this empty hole on offense, and it's just not working with Westbrook, which I really thought it was going to. I think Melo has the Chris Bosh effect of like the early Miami Heat. Like the Heat were struggling, and everyone was like, "Why aren't you giving Chris Bosh the ball? He's this like insane all-star it's really good." And the Heat were struggling because they weren't giving their third best player the ball on offense at all. They were just asking him to be like a side role player. It's like, okay, Melo can drop 30 a night.
Any thoughts on the Sixers?
It's got to be Covington.
Yeah. I mean, Covington's been lights out this year. He had a rough game, but...
No, that's where I come down to. It's funny thinking about over the summer with the Feds, the Fultz, Embiid, Dario, Simmons.
I forgot about that.
And now, Covington is their third best player. He plays hard. His 3-point shooting percentage is on fire, most nights at least. And
he's one of those players that I thought was just going to be he was just on the bad team. Like, he's just like, oh, okay, he's there. He's putting up some stats. Like, an Evan Turner, kind of player. Like, oh, he's dropping 20, but then, he's on a bad team, okay. But this year, he figured it out. He got his shot down, and now he's just, clipping it.
So, another best from last week, Mirotic and the Bulls on a 6-game win streak. They beat the Sixers last night. He scored 22 with 13 boards. Incredible. After a terrible, disastrous start to the beginning of their season. 6-game win streak.
I mean, it's really screwing their tank. They're just trying to lose, and they put this roster out there with Justin Holiday as your starting point guard. Shooting guard, sorry. But he's got to get traded. They got to trade him. Because I don't know what... His value is so high. He also looks like a competent player. Like, last year, they're like, oh, we might actually just drop you. Like, you're not good. But now he's dominating it. And, you just got to get punched in the face and you become a player.
Do you think this blood feud is just fueling him? Like, him and Bobby Portis are just playing for their jobs right now? Because they were really just fringe NBA players at the beginning of the season. Like, they were on a tanking team. Mirotic really wasn't a great role player. And they had Jimmy and D-Wade and Rondo. So I really think they're just playing, I think Mirotic is just playing with complete anger. And Bobby is just like, I can't let him win. Because if he wins, I get traded or I don't have a job anymore.
I think they got rid of Mirotic before they'd get rid of Bobby. Because Bobby had good stints last season.
Yeah. And I guess Bobby, you can play him at center as well. I don't think you can play Mirotic at the 5. I don't think he's big enough.
I just think it's insane that he comes back and all of a sudden they're beating teams. Which, some of the teams they play, like Philly's on a slide right now, but this team just went from 4 wins of their first 24 games to 5 in a row.
6 in a row after last night.
6 in a row. It's incredible.
So do you think that the 6-game win streak says or speaks to Mirotic's popularity in the locker room, maybe? Or do you think it's really basketball on the court type stuff?
I think it's finally the young players getting over the Jimmy Butler effect. Because at the end of last year, Jimmy Butler just had that locker room. Like, he said it 100 times. It was either me or Fred. It was me or coach. And they picked the coach. And so I think it's taken this offseason, these first 20-ish games to get like over that hump of like, I'm the coach now, I'm in charge, and these young guys are finally like buying into it. There's no more D-Wade or Rondo or Jimmy just like shoving the coach away. It's like you have to buy into the system, and his system works. You know, he's a proven college coach. They just needed to buy into it, and now it's like the system is working.
Right. I believe he's a good coach.
Yeah.
I think
Love him on the Suns.
I think it's similar to like the way the Magic started out. The Magic started out hot. Everyone started buying into the system. Like they cooled off a little bit, but this is like the opposite effect in Chicago. Like no one was really buying in yet. They get everybody back, and all of a sudden they're on their hot streak.
Yeah.
Like it's just the same effect as Magic. They're gonna cool off. They're gonna lose a ton of games this year, but
They're not a playoff team.
they're not even close. If I see Justin Holiday as the starting shooting guard on a playoff team,
I'd love it. I think that'd be great.
I feel like
It's
Nick
not
has something
possible.
against the Holiday family.
I think so. You don't like the brother. You
Yeah,
don't
he
like
speaks ill of Drew. Yeah.
I used to love.
You
Drew.
love Drew. Drew didn't do anything wrong at any point.
The Pelicans did everything wrong.
Another plus from the last week. Houston 14-game win streak. Dismantled the Jazz 120-99 last night. CP3 went 18, 10, 10. Beautiful kind of vintage CP3 triple-double.
Yeah.
You know,
What's going on? I mean, are they the best team in the league?
let's just pay respects to Clint Capella's almost 2020 game, where they took away the rebound to give it to Chris Paul, so he could get a triple double.
As much as you hate the Holidays, you love Clint Capella.
You know, he can come to LA. We'll pay him
They
everything.
should have just given it to Clint. I mean, like, CP3 doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve that triple-double.
No.
Like, give it to Capella. He's a young guy. Give him a little boost. A little boost instead.
MVP.
He's 7th in MVP voting.
I think I'm starting to buy more into this Rockets team than when even a week ago. Like it's looking. The only worry I have is it's the Warriors of the 73 win team, where they're gonna get burnt out. Like they're gonna try to win too many games, and I'm worried that they're just not gonna take breaks.
That could happen. But I think if they get to the top, like, I don't really think they're pushing for that number one. I don't think they care about that. I think they really care about Harden's health. And I think at the end of the season, so say there's like 15 games left, I bet Harden plays half those games and CP3 takes over those minutes. CP3's been resting to start the year. He needs to finish the year for Harden so he can get his MVP. They get a top 2 seed, and I don't know, they coast the first round. I don't think anyone in the first round is going to give them any trouble.
No.
What does he have? Didn't he break Dennis Rodman's record? He broke it for most consecutive games won
To start
on a new team.
Yeah.
CP3 is 15 straight wins.
That's a good record. Was that from Rodman with the Bulls, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
All right, so on to the worst from last week. The Thunder's big three are the worst shooters in the entire league. I didn't pull this stat. Lucas, I think it was you. Please explain. Hit the people with the facts.
All right, so players that attempt 15 plus field goals per game, the 3 worst players in that category are Carmelo at 41, Paul George at 40.8, and Russell Westbrook at 38.4%. They're the worst shooters in the league, and they all gun it. That's all they do.
That's more disgusting than the shot Nick is going to have to do during the fourth quarter of this podcast. Stay tuned. You'll understand why.
No, I will give
It's
you
gross.
more just a disgusting stat. So I got this from last Thursday, so it's a little bit old. But the last 7 games, Russell Westbrook was shooting worse from the field and from 3 than my boy, Lonzo Ball. Westbrook was shooting...
Is that true?
Yeah. In 7 games, he was shooting 20.93% from 3, almost 35% from the field. Ball was shooting 28% from 3 and 37% from the field. And you can only... I mean, Ball takes like 12 shots a game. Russell's taking probably 20, 22 shots a game.
I hang my head in shame as a Thunder fan.
It's not pretty.
What's going to make them change, though? I can't even think of the coach or the owner, or I don't know who in that organization could go up to Westbrook and be like, all right, face of the franchise for the next 5 years, like, you have to stop doing what you're doing. Like, I don't see it happening. He's going to make, like, $46 million when he turns 35.
It should have happened, like, 5 years ago. This talk to him, like, hey, man, you need to, like, even when he had Durant, like, can you give the ball to Durant?
That was so annoying
and
to watch.
And you just start chucking threes
oh my God.
30 feet out. Like, you give it to the guy who's 7 feet tall and just can make the moves.
I feel like I've been the biggest flip-flopper on Russell Westbrook of all time. I was a huge fan of Durant coming out of college. You know, followed him to the Seattle Sonics. Became an OKC fan because of Kevin Durant. And always blamed their failures on Russell Westbrook. You know, I watched game after game after game where I was like, please, dude, just pass the ball to Durant. He's so much more efficient. He's a way better shooter. And so when Durant left, I was kind of like in a weird gray area where am I still an OKC fan? I was a fan of them because of Durant. And then Westbrook had that season he had last year. And I was like, oh my God, you know what? I was wrong about Westbrook all along. This guy's amazing. He's doing things no one else in the league has ever done or could do. And then, 25 plus games into this year, I'm like, you know what? He might be the most overrated player in the NBA. All right, it's time to move into the second quarter. News, drama, beefs. Piece of news. Matt Barnes retired. What do we think of his career? What do we think of him as a guy? I think of him and Derek Fisher as inextricably linked at this point.
That was the best drama ever.
I really wish that we were doing this pod back when that was going on and was still relevant because, that
was the best
the
timeline.
tops.
The best timeline of Matt Barnes just driving to wherever Derek Fisher was to beat him up. Like, that was the best Twitter updates. We knew where Matt Barnes was going to be at each time. That would have been better than, like, Floyd versus Mayweather. I would have watched that. I think Matt Barnes could have killed him.
Matt Barnes has honestly the funniest career because he had the whole thing with Derek Fisher, who, how the hell are you the goddamn NBA coach and you're sleeping with all your players' girlfriends?
That was the weirdest story ever, too. I did not expect that of D-Fish.
And then you get Matt Barnes, who gets fined like every game on the Clippers that he played. So the fact that he didn't make any money, it cost him more to play in the NBA because he had so many fines. Like his salary was only $500,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
And his fines every single game were like $25,000 because he would like punch
he got fined
somebody.
like 13 times that season too. Like he had no money at the end of that season.
And then there was the one where he tried to like pass the ball into Kobe's face, and
That's
Kobe
the
just
best
didn't
moment.
move. That's my favorite.
I had forgotten about that.
That is my
good.
favorite video.
When they became teammates, everything was good.
Became bros.
They became bros. He's played on every single team in California. That's a fun fact.
No kidding.
Yeah, every single team he's played for. It's a cool fun fact.
There was another retirement. Kobe Bryant's jerseys. As far as I know, the only time any player has had multiple jerseys retired.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever happened.
Yeah, no, because the next person to have it will probably be LeBron.
Yeah, I guess
Because
so.
he'll have 23 in Cleveland and 6 in Miami.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll retire 6?
Yeah.
They have to,
Like,
right?
he got, 2 championships there? Like, they got it.
You've got to do that. Okay, so who do you pick? 6, not 8 and 6, 8 or 24? Who do you pick?
So the points scored were almost identical
Everything's
in
almost
the two
identical.
jerseys. I prefer the hair in 8, so I'm going to go 8.
8 was pretty cool. He was way more athletic in 8. He could do those dunks.
Yeah,
He'd
but-
throw it down.
It was incredible.
He was a G on 24.
I think he was a monster on 28,
24.
but I think 24 is like this weird, this assassin. Like 8, he was still so young, and he still had like Shaq for a bit.
He smiled, and not in like a fuck you way.
Yeah.
It was just like a genuine smile back when he was wearing 8. And then 24, if he was smiling, that meant you were bleeding.
You're dead.
Yeah.
You're gonna die that day. I'd pick 24 because 24 has hurt me personally. Like he's hurt the Suns way more than I can think of.
I just hate watching, like, Kobe mixtapes because I'm just like, there's not this guy in the league anymore. Which I hope Devin Booker becomes the next Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan-esque player because...
We need some guy in the league that can be like Kobe. That's like, you take the ball to the court. I don't care if Kobe's shooting 40%, whatever he's shooting. It's when he gets the ball,
you're scared.
And he makes a jump shot. It's over. Like a fadeaway jumper from Kobe just feels it's over.
I just saw a replay last night, and it was Kobe went under the basket, went up to like pass to someone, but he didn't have any pass to, so he threw the ball off the back of someone, caught it off the bounce, jump shot in. I was like, players nowadays would just be like,
The only person I can think of that does that, like those kind of outside the box things, is like Rondo. Like he'll inbound the ball off some guy's back. There's an entire like montage of Rondo passing it off of D-Wade's back.
2021 All-Star Game awarded to Indianapolis. I hear that a lot of players are excited, and that's not accurate. No one's excited.
I think it'll be a good change, but so that's what, 3 years away. You're gonna have Oladipo be the, kind of the All-Star game.
Or the hometown All-Star.
Hometown All-Star. Kind of. I mean, it's good. It's good to get it out. We don't want just to do LA, New York.
I feel like it's been
Brooklyn,
New Orleans forever.
New Orleans.
Why does it feel
Toronto?
like? Yeah.
It's just been the big cities. I like it going to smaller market teams. It gives
It's
kind of some recognition.
It's the hometown of basketball. It's Indiana. It's Larry Bird.
They should just have Larry Bird kind of be the.
We shouldn't even have an All-Star game. It should just be a documentary on Larry Bird. I'd watch that. I'd love that.
God damn it, Larry! Why did you do the driveway?
Yeah, that's whatever. That's a tangent on Larry Bird.
We'll get there one day.
One day we'll talk about Larry Bird.
He's probably going to be our first interview.
Absolutely.
I'll message him right now.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'll be doing his driveway. I'll give him a call. I'll talk to him.
So this week's biggest beef: Embiid v. Westbrook. This was just straight up awesome. I loved every second. I loved every second of the last 3 overtimes of the game. That being said, even after my Sixers lost to also my Thunder.
Hard game for Jason.
A hard game. There was no winning for me. I was guaranteed to win, but there was no winning. What transpired at the end of the game was the best. You guys want to detail?
It was Westbrook kept telling Embiid to go home. He was just yelling it across the court. Go home. And then Embiid was like, I am home. It was really funny though, the way that it happened. Because Embiid's like, what do you want from me right now? Like, you won, but you played terribly. Even like the post-game interview with Embiid, he was like, Westbrook shot like 35 times and only made 10 shots. Like, you didn't win this game for your team.
And the go-home comment was almost nonsensical.
Like,
I just mean like Westbrook. Like, what are you saying? What is this? Like, you could have just been like.
So a little context: Steven Adams fouled out in the first overtime, maybe first or second overtime, and Embiid was waving goodbye and kind of made a whole thing out of it.
Yeah.
And then we imagined that that's really what drove Westbrook to talk some smack at the end of the game.
But just do better.
Yeah,
And that's what Embiid thrives on, is getting centers out of the game, and he does so well at it. And it's Westbrook. Just stop.
Embiid thrives on talking. If you don't talk back to Embiid, it just doesn't work.
It's Garnett all over again.
Third quarter. The Lucas list.
Oh yes, best segment.
So we did the top 10 NBA what ifs from the last 10 years. And when I say we did, I mean Lucas made a list.
Oh, yes. Okay. Top 10 what ifs, past 10 years. Number 10, what if Damian Lillard never broke Steve Nash's leg 2 games into the season?
Like, oh my God, we're going to come back. Like, we have this super team we're going to destroy. And then it all fell apart when Damian Lillard attacked.
Damian Lillard attacked.
It was...
Attack of Lillard.
That was such a rough season. I think Steve Nash... I mean, I hope D'Antoni could have managed his minutes really well, but after that, I mean, his career was over after that.
It was completely over.
It literally destroyed the Lakers, and they're still destroyed from it because we still have our picks out.
It's a good what if because I feel like there's not really a clear answer, in the sense that was gonna be a weird hodgepodgey team to begin with. You know, I mean, a lot of new players being thrown into the mix at the same exact time and trying to learn how to play together. Maybe it would have worked out. Maybe it wouldn't have been ultimately all that different. At least that's how I see it.
It also could have saved Kobe.
It would have saved Kobe. Kobe, I guarantee, he would have never died if he wasn't playing 40 minutes a game by the end of that
doing
season.
Everything.
Every single thing. He was point guard, shooting guard, small forward.
Yeah. No.
He was everything.
I know one of your next what ifs will save could have avoided this entire what if happening, but
I would have rather seen what if we actually gave Steve Nash's 2 MVPs to the best player in the league at that point, Kobe Bryant.
No.
He would have been.
There is no way Kobe deserved those MVPs.
There is also no way that Steve Nash should be a 2-time MVP
He
during
should
the Kobe era.
He should. Kobe didn't make the playoffs when he averaged 35 a night.
A debate for another day. Let's move on to number 9.
So fired up. Number 9. What if Patrick Beverley never took out Russell Westbrook in the 2013 playoffs?
That's a great one. I mean, would Durant still be in OKC if they had advanced that year? I mean, they entered the playoffs as a number 1 seed. They were monsters, and that completely derailed the team's chances.
Yeah, I think. I mean, the year before they made the finals, not so well. I just really hope. I really wish it was. They shouldn't have lost to the Grizzlies, even without Westbrook.
I remember watching that though. I remember it, and I remember being so furious about Beverly doing that because you could tell it was intentional. They still lost the series, but then playing Memphis, it was like Memphis was prime defensive Memphis though.
Yeah,
they were triple teaming Durant, and then the only other person was Ibaka, and Ibaka didn't really do anything. And then your third option is rookie Reggie Jackson, and it was like so much hate for Reggie Jackson because he wouldn't pass Durant the ball.
It's like another player on that team who didn't pass Durant the ball.
It's exactly what the Thunder needed. Another player keeping the ball away from Kevin Durant. Number 8, what do you got?
Number 8, what if the Wolves drafted Curry instead of Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn? So they traded for the 5th pick in the draft, drafted Rubio, took Flynn with their pick, and then the next pick after that, number 7, was Steph Curry. Why? And they would have had Steph Curry and Kevin Love to build a team around.
Well, I mean, the true answer is Steph Curry wasn't that highly touted. Like, he didn't get a D1 scholarship. He was not, like, recruited after. He's just kind of like, oh, like, yeah, you're okay. Like, Davidson was the only team to really be like, okay. All the other teams are like, oh, you can red shirt a year. I think Rubio was this highly
Rubio was
anticipated.
super hyped, but I went back. I tried to look at like previous mock drafts. Like Curry was top 3, and everyone was like, "Oh, he just slid," because they thought he was like an undersized 2 guard.
That's really interesting.
But
good research.
But even like Skip Bayless said he should go number 1. But I think they really missed the ball on that. And I don't even that whole draft by the Wolves. They drafted Ty Lawson at 18. They drafted 3 point guards in that draft.
They drafted Ty Lawson?
Yeah, they drafted Rubio, Johnny Flynn, and Ty Lawson. 7 is what if the Blazers drafted Durant instead of Greg Oden? I think this is huge because if they did draft Durant, the Blazers would have been Durant, Brandon Roy, who was hurt, but then they would have had sophomore LaMarcus Aldridge, and they would have had junior Zebo, who just signed a 6-year contract with them. So they would have had huge big men. They would have had prime Brandon Roy, I guess, but off injured. And they would have had rookie Durant, who still put up 20 plus in his rookie year.
Here's the thing. People forget how amazing Greg Oden was in the NBA.
He was a tank.
That is not true. Oden was never there. Durant obviously would have changed the Blazers franchise completely. The Brandon Roy injury saga was tragic. But if you can imagine Durant with a healthy Roy, everyone else you named,
They could have let Roy sit. They could have not played him that many minutes. They could have let Durant play with those minutes.
The beauty of the what-if game.
I love the what-if game.
Or, now I'm going to be the negative guy here.
Okay.
Durant slips behind. They don't play him so much because, we have LaMarcus, we have Brandon Roy. We'll just kind of let you be there. You don't play as many minutes as you would on the Supersonics. So he kind of starts fading. I mean, he's got the talent, but, you've seen players who have talent and then all of a sudden they're on the wrong team.
Right situation is huge.
Yeah, so he could have just been like, all right, we're going to play Roy and we're going to play LaMarcus. They're scoring. We got Zebo here. Do we really need you to start? You're not really ready yet. You're still super skinny.
You think about that, though, with all those guys on that team, and if you take away the injuries, it's almost like the Golden State Warriors today, where you could basically field the starting five of an all-star team based on their starting lineup.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good one, though. The Trailblazers just should never draft a center. Just accept it. Don't ever draft a center. Always draft the small forward, shooting guard.
All right, so number 6 is a personal one for me. What if the NBA never suspended Amare Stoudemire and Boris Diaw in the 2007 semifinals against the Spurs?
Was Joey Crawford involved?
Yes.
Of course, because Joey Crawford was always involved.
There is a record of Joey Crawford rigging games against the Suns in the finals. And not the finals, in the playoffs. It is proven.
Right, I was like, the Suns went to the finals?
No.
Good one.
Oh, God. But the biggest thing is Tim Duncan also got off the bench. Tim Duncan also walked onto the court, and they didn't suspend Duncan. They instantly ejected Amare and Diaw, didn't eject Duncan, and now here we are today. But
Which is interesting because Joey Crawford undeniably hated Tim Duncan.
It's so much. Was it
Tim Duncan was laughing one time. That's what you were gonna say.
Yeah.
I think he was laughing on the bench.
Yep.
And Joey Crawford teed him up or ejected him from the game because he was laughing on the bench.
It made no sense. I feel like that whole decade, though, had really insane reffing. You can go back, and it was Joey Crawford. There was that guy that had all the...
Tim Donaghy,
yeah. It was awful. But I think that is a huge what-if because the Suns had swept the Spurs in the regular season. The next challenge would have been the Nuggets, who they would have swept because the Spurs swept them. And then the finals was LeBron with the Cavs, and it was just LeBron. It was just 27-year-old LeBron versus the world. And they would have, I think
they had it. I think they had it that
year. It would have
year.
been the Suns' first championship. So
You guys both know they're my favorite video game team of all time. That era of Suns teams, the best ever to play on NBA Live, or your choice of favorite game. And yeah, I think they could have. I really think they could have won the chip that year.
It's a heartbreaker for me. Well, number 5 is what if Kobe had been traded to the Pistons in 2007?
That would hurt. That would hurt a lot. What was the package? Was Tayshaun?
Was it
Prime Tayshaun.
Antonio Walker?
Yeah, Antonio Walker.
The fifth pick in the draft. Or no, the next year's pick in the draft. Which was the 5th pick, I guess, but
I mean, that changes the whole future of the.
It would have changed everything.
Mostly because we would have had Kobe v. LeBron.
It would have happened all the time.
All the time. There would have been an actual team playing against LeBron.
And it's not even like Kobe would miss a Meta World Peace because he'd have Rasheed Wallace. It would
Equally crazy.
It would have been equally crazy and equally fun to watch Rasheed freak out on people. Kobe would have gotten a better defensive team, but I don't think he would have had any offensive help on the
Who
Pistons.
doesn't need offensive help?
Over under 2 championships if he went to the Pistons.
Oh, I don't know.
Because that's how many he got after that, right?
Yeah, he won 2 with Powell.
No.
I say under.
I think
he
under,
won
too.
more chips with the Lakers.
I think so
Because he
too.
would have had to play, and then the Celtics would have been there. He would have had to play that
Right.
Celtics team.
He would've-
That would have been fun, though.
That would have been awesome. But I think that Celtics team was. They were
He would have had to play the Celtics 4 times a year and then in a playoff series.
Yeah.
That would have been so much Kobe versus Celtics. That would have been sweet. 4 is another one of my personal ones. Is what if Sean Marion never used his no trade clause? Sean Marion used a no trade clause to decline going to the Celtics, which would have sent Kevin Garnett to the Suns, and then the Wolves would have gotten Al Jefferson, Gerald Green, and a slew of picks. But I still think, not just on a Suns side of how I would have had probably the best Suns team of all time, the Celtics would have gone prime Amari Stoudemire playing the power forward. He was averaging 28 and 5 or whatever. He was like when Grant Hill, before Grant Hill got hurt. I think the Celtics would have been still pretty fine. I mean, you wouldn't have Kevin Garnett's insane defense, and he couldn't play the 5, but he still would have played stretch 4, would have played the 3.
He would have had no knees.
He might have had no knees.
I mean, Sean Marion obviously screwed you guys over because getting Garnett would have made you immensely better. But.
So at that point in their careers, you would have taken Garnett over Stoudemire.
Yeah.
Hands down.
If you want to win a championship.
Yeah.
I just like playing basketball on NBA 2K. So give me Stoudemire.
Okay, so number 3 is what if David Stern didn't veto the CP3 trade?
Now, I was referencing this earlier to number 10, where we would never have needed Nash. Maybe Dwight comes. We have Chris Paul. We have Kobe. We have Dwight. That team would have kind of been what Houston is now with Clint Capella, Chris Paul,
Do you
James
think
Harden.
Dwight would have gone into a Clint Capella role? 'Cause he never went into a role besides he just wanted to be the guy.
I think Dwight maybe would have felt better with like Chris Paul there over just having Kobe. Like Steve Nash was just injured, so he wasn't actually there. I think Chris Paul would have been like more buddies with him. Kobe doesn't want to be buddies with you, but I think that could have been one of.
Although CP3 has that reputation too. I mean, he's only one step down from Kobe on like the intensometer.
Okay, so number 2 is what if D Rose never got hurt?
So I find that to be super interesting, but also almost not even like a legitimate what if. Derrick Rose moved and played the game in a way that the human body is not capable of. He was going to break down at one point or another. The way he would cut, there's just his 0 to 60 speed was so incredible and otherworldly that legitimately, I had conversations with my brother and my cousin who were also big fans of the league. And we talked about it before it happened. We were just like, dude, this guy, he's too fast. He's too fast for the human body. So I love that it's on the list, and I would put it here too. But it's almost not even a what if as far as I'm concerned, because it was just going to happen.
A guarantee.
A guarantee. I mean, Westbrook is maybe I don't know. He might be the closest comparison to what D Rose was, strictly in terms of, that lateral movement, that quick burst, that attacking style. But it still looks like it's slow motion in comparison to watching D Rose in his prime.
I don't know.
I'm going to piggyback off this. Not that, what if he didn't get injured? What if they had gotten LeBron and Chris Bosh to come to Chicago? Because that was the other destination, was LeBron going to Chicago to be with Derrick Rose. And almost like a Chris Paul helping Kobe out, or even right now, like Chris Paul helping James Harden, not be injured. LeBron takes a lot of that load off of D Rose. He doesn't have to play as much.
I would have hated that though.
Oh, I would have hated
D-Rose
it.
and
I
that
loved
Bulls
it.
team they were the perfect anti-Heat. Like
Absolutely.
every single game was a grind up. Joakim Noah was about to punch LeBron in the face. Nazir Muhammad threw LeBron to the ground. He got ejected. Like, it was the perfect anti-LeBron team. But then, like, I forgot how great D-Rose was. Because I watch him now, and he's like, he doesn't show himself because he's gone. But I had to watch...
He might literally be gone. He might be in a different state than the rest of the team.
I had to watch old tape of him and think of, like, watching it. It wasn't that he had just the athleticism of Westbrook. He was so crafty. Like, Westbrook just drives straight at you. Rose would go that speed, but then go right and then left and then instantly be at the... It was insane what he could do, though. Number one was, what if OKC re-signed James Harden? This is the biggest one. This is 3 MVPs on the same team, and they could have had it forever.
So he was traded in 2012, coming off of the loss in the finals to the Heat.
It's terrible.
Of which you guys know my opinion. I think Harden was probably the reason OKC lost that series.
Yeah.
I think he really blew it. There was a huge drop between, how he had played throughout the regular season, and even first couple rounds of the playoffs, to how he played in that finals. So that's the best argument I can make for why you would trade Harden. The reality, though, is that you traded Harden to sign Serge Ibaka.
I didn't even have a problem with them signing Serge Ibaka. All they had to do was trade Kendrick Perkins, who was useless. And the fact that they stayed with
But he was that great veteran in the locker room.
No, veteran leadership BS. The fact that they stuck with that lineup for so long of Westbrook, Cephalosha, Durant, Ibaka, Perkins, it just made no sense. They could have been ahead of the entire league. Getting rid of Perkins, sliding Ibaka, sliding Durant, put someone else, a 3 shooter in that small forward, take Harden off the bench still. You would have just destroyed the league. You would have destroyed the Heat. You would have won.
I think the biggest thing, though, after I had no idea about this until starting to make this top 10 list, OKC offered this contract and only gave Harden 1 hour to decide. In the thing, they gave him the thing and they said, we have a trade already set up for you to go to Houston. You have 1 hour to decide. Harden wanted $8 more million over the course of 4 years. That was it. It was 4 years, 60 mil he wanted. And they turned him down. They said, no, we'll give you 4 years, 54 million, 52 million, or you're getting traded to Houston. And they gave him 1 hour to decide.
The greatest decision of James Harden's entire life
was to leave. Probably, personally for him, it hurts my heart.
It breaks my heart, yeah.
For his entire career.
That would have been the perfect, anti-Golden State right now. You
right.
would have had 2 extreme super teams playing each other.
I don't think they would have lasted this long.
You don't think so?
Nope.
Do you think if they had re-signed Harden, maybe Durant would still be in OKC and Westbrook would be somewhere else?
I think that's the biggest case. I think Harden and Durant would still be on a team together because they would have traded. I think they would have traded Westbrook for.
Their games are more complementary.
Yeah. I think that's what would have happened.
The Lucas list.
Yeah.
Well done. The top 10 NBA what-ifs from the last 10 years. Moving on to the fourth quarter, we're going to do next week's picks. And Nick Reed also has to take a truly disgusting shot. So, background for this gross shot is we did our picks last week going into this first week 1 of the podcast. So every week we're going to choose some of the marquee matchups coming up over the next week. And also some of the league pass games too, just because we don't want to pick 4 Houston games every week. And the loser is going to have to drink a shot that they truly hate. I personally hate Jameson, unless Jameson decides to sponsor the Sip and Swish. You're welcome to, Jameson. I will drink your product. I didn't know exactly what Nick's least favorite would be, so I decided to create something myself. It's a mix of rum, vodka, and a little something called Lillet. I have no idea why that's in my cupboard. So bottoms up, buddy. I hope you enjoy this shot.
The grimace.
That was absolutely no less than 4 ounces.
That was a lot of different flavors going on in there.
That face you made was not great.
All right, so we're going to start off with the battle of the bad, as Nick affectionately put it. Nets versus the Kings tomorrow, which is Wednesday night. Who do you guys got? Why? And what does the BPI have to say?
Okay, so I'll start off with who I'm picking. I'm just going to go with Brooklyn just because they're at home. That's about it. I think both these teams are... but Spencer Dinwiddie is kind of carrying my fantasy team, so I'll...
He's still hot.
He's still always hot. He's a beautiful man.
Still always hot. I will, I'll start off the fourth quarter not super well and just honestly say the Nets and the Kings aren't teams that I watch. So I'm going to piggyback off of Nick's strategy. I'll take the Nets at home.
I think I'm going to be the different one. I'm going to pick the Kings just because I think they're healthy. And I don't think the Nets aren't going to play Okafor. And because of that, they're going to have to play their third string power forward. They don't have Trevor Booker anymore.
If I was in Brooklyn, I'd be showing up every day with a big sign saying play Okafor.
Right?
Well, what is it?
It's Okafor time.
It's Okafor time.
They're trying to get him in shape, and they're trying to get him into the system. Because he's been sitting on the bench for the first 25 games of the season.
Yeah.
So he hasn't been,
He hasn't
playing. He hasn't been doing anything. So the BPI had it for the Nets winning 74% in favor of the Nets.
All right. Well,
Lucas stands alone.
that's all right.
Portland versus Spurs. Also Wednesday night.
Spurs, I think it's going to be a pretty easy win, actually. I think it's going to be very easy. Kawhi's back. Everyone on the Spurs is healthy. It's kind of over. It's just Spurs.
I agree. I could see Kawhi really kind of his minutes starting to increase at this point. And, him just kind of getting that touch and getting the feel of the game again. I'll take Spurs.
I'm going to be different. I'm going to side with the BPI on this one.
He's looking at the VPI. He doesn't want to take another shot next week.
He's still chasing that shot down.
I'm going to take Trailblazers because I love Damian Lillard at home. And, we're about a month away from Damian dropping 30 points a night.
You mean because he's going to get snubbed?
Yep.
He's going to get snubbed.
There's
no
snubbed.
way he's making the All-Star game.
No.
Even though he totally deserves it.
And when he's not an all-star, he starts wrecking the league.
He gets into the playoffs every single year. But yeah, I'm going to take Trailblazers. The BPI had 52% in favor, so it's a close game. That's honestly just pretty much even.
52%.
For the Trailblazers.
All right.
At home.
New York, Detroit, Friday.
It's got to be the Pistons. I've got to go Pistons. Tim Hardaway Jr.'s out. Porzingis is out.
Yeah, what do we know about that injury in terms of the timeline at this point?
Honestly, I haven't seen anybody talking about a timeline for Porzingis, which is kind of worrisome.
It's the alarming part.
They're not saying anything about it. So I don't know if that's just them being like, okay, we're just going to be cautious, but then why wouldn't you just say, we're just being cautious? They're just not saying much of anything. So
Right. Even if he doesn't play, a Porzingis-less Knicks team did just ruin Carmelo Anthony's return to the Garden.
Which makes no sense, because they don't even have Tim Hardaway, so how are they scoring? With, Jared Jack? I don't know who else is scoring on that team. It's like Doug McDermott versus the world.
I don't believe in the Pistons. I'm taking New York.
Well, just on good news, Porzingis will be back.
He is going to be back?
So,
Bolsters my pick.
It's perfect.
Yeah, I'm going to go Knicks.
I'm going to go Pistons still, but
All right, so the BPI...
he's back.
Detroit, 71% in favor to win.
There we go. Science on my side.
So Christmas Day games. Philly versus New York.
Hopping on that Philly bandwagon. They're going to turn around Christmas Day in New York, and Embiid is going to make a show of Porzingis if he even plays.
No way. I don't think Embiid can make a show. Porzingis is so good this year. He's so good. Porzingis is so good.
The shock on Nick's face right now.
The only problem is
Porzingis is averaging 30. Like,
9 more.
I mean,
He started off the first 10 games
what is he averaging now?
insanely hot. I mean, he might be averaging 30 because he's been injured for like 2 straight weeks. I know this because my fantasy team is suffering without you. But, I mean, he's good. I like him a lot. There's a lot of talks about Towns versus Porzingis. I think they're both just still developing. I think people need to give them a couple years. But I think Embiid I'm taking Embiid over Porzingis as a player. And I think Embiid's going to take it to him.
I'm going to pick the Knicks just because I'm rebellious and I want you to lose.
I'll pick the Sixers just because I'm a fan. And it's Christmas, and I'm believing in Christmas miracles. The Sixers will get back to winning ways.
Now, the BPI has the Knicks with a 52.5% favor.
Again, science on my side.
Cleveland, Golden State.
No, this is the matchup of the year. There are only 2 of these. Golden State's going to win.
Is Curry going to be back?
I don't think so.
He's not back right now. Then I don't know. I think I'm taking the Cavs. I'm taking the Cavs. If Curry's not back, I'm not.
So you're just taking LeBron, Kevin Love versus...
I'm taking just LeBron.
LeBron versus Durant,
Clay
is Draymond.
Not Clay anymore. I think he's fallen off. I think Clay is...
We've talked about this a little before,
for the
and
decline.
I absolutely agree. Klay Thompson, you look at his shooting percentage, you look at just his body language sometimes. It's just not... He's not the Klay that scores 60 points.
I don't think it's like any of his fault either. I think it's him playing almost like a whole extra season than the rest of the league. I don't think he's... You know, he shot terrible the last game.
When his contract expires, he's going to a different team.
I think so too.
He's going to LA.
I think actually when Draymond's contract is up, they're going to have to trade Clay to sign Draymond to like come back. I think they'd rather have Draymond.
Come back.
I could see Draymond Green in a celebrity boxing match with Tanya Harding. Just because that's where I see Draymond Green in like 10 years. I'm gonna take Cleveland, even though I'll be rooting for Golden State, even though I despise both teams.
Well, you two are going heavily against the BPI.
Who needs science?
You, last pick. 80% in favor of Golden State winning Christmas Day at home.
Yeah, right.